There was a preacher whose habit it was to write down every word of his sermon on paper and then take those papers into the pulpit and preach the sermon as it was written on the paper. Did that year after year. He had a friend who preached seemingly off the top of his head, inspiring, glorious sermons that seemed to come so naturally, so easily. And the preacher who wrote the sermons out wanted to be like that and was a little bit envious. And so asked his friend, what's your secret? How do you do it? He said, well, it's pretty simple. All week long I pray God to give me the word that God would have me speak. And when I go into the pulpit on Sunday morning, I simply say what God has spoken to me. God said, well, I'll try that. So Monday morning, when he would normally be doing his sermon research, he did nothing but pray, no answer, not too much stress, which is Monday. Tuesday and Wednesday, the same thing, no answer from God, a little bit more worried. By Thursday, the day when he would normally have the first draft produced, still no word from God. As the weekend came upon him, he started to pray more fervently as it rolled into Saturday night. Still no word from God. Sunday morning, he's starting to sweat as the choir is singing their anthem, and there's still no message from God. And as he steps into the pulpit, he says, all right, Lord, I put my trust in you all week long. It's now or never. What is the message that you have for me today? And as clear as a bell, the voice of God came back and said, you should have written a sermon. I like that for multiple reasons. First of all, some people will ask in the course of church life, you know, I just don't feel comfortable praying off the top of my head. I like to read off a note card. Are my prayers any less valuable and authentic than someone who prays so richly and so seemingly easily off the top of their head and heart? And my answer is quite simple. It doesn't matter whether we're reading prayers or whether we're speaking on top of our head. Our prayers have to come from a spiritual place. If they don't come from a spiritual place, whether we read it or say them without notes, they're not going to be very powerful. I'm sure you, like I am, you've heard people read prayers and you think, honestly, you know, just put the cards away. And you've also heard people preach off the top of their head and you say, oh, I really wish you would have written something down. So it doesn't matter as long as they're coming from a spiritual place. And that's also why I like this little story. Because it reminds us that in our relationship with God, there is something for us to do. Life with God is not just about sitting around and waiting for some Damascus Road revelation. There may be something that we have to do. Now, God will bless us. God will love us. God will speak to us. But there may be something that we actively have to do to recognize and receive God's blessings when they come. And that's what prayer helps us do. It helps ready us to receive God when God shows up. And our reading from 2 Chronicles today underscores that for me. So we have this wonderful verse. God says to the people, if my people who are called by my name humble themselves, turn to me, seek my face, pray, I, God, will heal, I will forgive. In those verses, in that one verse really, there's a relationship. On the one side, there's God. On the other side, there's us. Now, God has a role to play in that relationship to bring healing and forgiveness. But notice that we also have a role to play, seeking God, turning to God. The healing will come. The forgiveness will come. But it comes to us in the course of our turning to God. I think the cell phone analogy is a good one to think about prayer too in this regard today. If you're on the phone and you go through a dead zone, what happens to that person on the other line, on the other end of the line? You can't hear them, right? Or the message is distorted, it comes in every other word. Now, they're still there. They haven't gone anywhere. They're still speaking to you. They have, for all we know, a wonderful message for you. The problem is what? we can't hear it. And we're not going to hear it unless we do something. Listen more attentively, physically move, change our position. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? There's something that we do. That message is still there, but prayer is that way that we are tuning into God. We want to be very clear about this. Prayer does not make God more available to us. Prayer makes us more available to God. So this is week 2 of our 5-week sermon series on prayer. Last week, everybody had an assignment, and if you're first time here today, you can kind of get caught up in this. Last week, our assignment was to look at our day-to-day life and find the place in the day where we have 5 to 10 minutes that we can devote our full attention to God. I'm assuming you did that. You're coming back to church now. You know, whether it's early in the morning, late at night. I was reminded when Phyllis was doing the children's message, a great time for me to pray growing up was right before Dad got home from work. But, in any case, whether your time to pray is early in the morning, late at night, in the middle of the day, wherever, you have 5 or 10 minutes. But that's only the start. Now that we have 5 to 10 minutes, we need to do something with that time. And what we do to pray with God is, first of all, to create space. We need to create space in our lives. And the first way we do that is physically. I love this verse from Mark chapter 1, verse 35. And it reads this way. Early in the morning, when it was still very dark, Jesus got up and he went to a deserted place, and there he began to pray. His disciples hunted for him. In that one verse, we learn so much. When Jesus prayed, he went to a deserted place. And it was so separated from everybody else that even his best friends didn't know where he was. They had to hunt him down to find him. Now, you may not have that much success finding separation in your life, but prayer is about that. Moving away from distractions. Moving away from distractions. Finding a place that is relatively free from all of the chaos out there. But then we need to go further. Prayer is not just about creating physical space, it's about creating place in our hearts. In our heart. Michael Elmore, our regional pastor who's here, likes to say about prayer that the devil works best in noise. The devil works best in noise. So what we need to do in prayer is to just quiet ourselves and to step away, inside and outside, from the noise and distractions of the world. So what I'd like to do today is to offer 4 ways that we can begin coming to quiet in our lives.